gonna show you how to make this finger knit blanket in under 3 hours. This blanket was so easy and fast to make. I absolutely loved this. I'm gonna make like a million of these. It's great. This is the yarn I used. This label's a little messed up. It came that way. I ended up using 8 skeins of this. I did a color block design, and I did 2 skeins of this teal color, 3 of the Terra Cotta, and 3 of the gray. This blanket ends up being about 56 inches wide by 60 inches long, so it's a really great throw blanket size. We're going to be doing 30 stitches for our rows and then end up doing 59 rows altogether to get that size. So I decided to do a color block design for this with 3 different blocks of color, and I had a specific amount of rows that I wanted to do for each color. So I ended up using 8 skeins because of that, but I did not use all of the yarn for all the skeins, especially like the Terra Cotta. The 3rd one that I used, I just barely used any of it. And the gray had probably about half a skein left over of the last one. So I would say if you wanted to do this with one color, you would be safe with 7 skeins, although I'd probably pick up 8 just to be safe, and you can always use it to make like a throw pillow or something. So let's get started. So this is the yarn I'm using for this blanket. It's Bernat Blanket Big. I really love this yarn for these big blankets though. It's really, really big. It's this nice chenille yarn. It's very warm and soft, and it holds up well. You can wash it. If you don't have this available, you just need something that size, and I recommend 100% polyester for this just because of the washability. So you start with the end of your yarn, and we're going to tie a slip knot like you would do if you were doing crochet. So you just wrap the yarn around your hand, and then you bring this through this loop on the back of your fingers, pull up that loop, then take your fingers out, and then you just pull the ends and the loop to tighten that up. And you got this nice slip knot here. And I'm gonna make it a little smaller. So I want my loop to be, you know, however big that is, not super huge. And that's my starting loop. And now we're gonna chain just like you would do if you were crocheting, except for you're doing it with your fingers. And instead of crocheting, we're gonna be knitting. For this blanket, I'm doing 30 stitches across. So I'm gonna do 30 chains, and this first loop counts as the first chain. So as of now, I have 1. All right, so I'm gonna start doing my chains, and I want them to all be about the same size. So let's see, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm just gonna keep going until I have 30, but you just want them to be all about the same size. So now we have a chain with 30 stitches going all the way across. And now we're gonna do, and I'm gonna have to scoot this so it all stays on camera. And what I'm gonna do now is start row 2. So all you do is you take your yarn and you're gonna kind of lay it in front of your chain, kind of like going the other direction. And that'll just make it a little easier for you. And you start with this is our first loop. We're just gonna pull through a loop. We want it to be about the same size as what our chains have been. And then you're gonna do the same thing for the next one, and just make sure you don't accidentally pull this loop out to make this. You wanna make sure you're pulling from the yarn slack and not accidentally shrinking your first loop. And then you go in the next chain and you grab your yarn and you pull up another loop. There we go. And you're just gonna keep doing that. And your goal here is just to keep them all as consistent as you can with size. You just want them to be as close as they can be to the same size. It'll make your blanket look a lot neater. But you just keep going down each chain and pull up a loop. And this yarn, it doesn't like come undone easily, so you don't have to worry about the loops coming out. They might flop forward, but they'll stay. It seems to me that they stay in place just fine. I haven't had a problem with them coming out on me. And you just keep going till you get to the end of your row. All right, here's our last loop. And there we go. That's our first row all done. And now we're gonna do the next row, going back the other direction. So I just like to take my yarn and kind of move it over to the other side, lay it in front, and then we just go the other way. So start here on this last loop, pull the next loop through, and repeat. And again, just try to keep your loops consistently sized and keep on going across. And here we are at the other end, the last stitch. And there we go, that's row 2. And we're just gonna repeat that until we run out of yarn. I believe I can get 8 rows out of one skein. So I'm just gonna repeat that going back and forth for however many rows I can do. I'm pretty sure it's 8 before I run out of yarn with the skein, and then I'll show you how to join a new skein of yarn on. And there's 2 ways you can do it, but one is my preferred method. So I'll show you that in just a minute. Okay, so I've made it most of the way, almost halfway across row 8, and my yarn has run out. And I wanted to show you how to attach a new skein of yarn. So I'm grabbing another one. I'm not changing colors yet. I'll go over that whenever we get to the color change row. But there's 2 ways you can add, well, there might be more than 2, but there's 2 that I know of that you can use to add more yarn. One way is just to tie the 2 tails together. I'm not going to do it actually because I don't like to do it this way, but you would just tie a knot. I'm not going to tie it all the way tight, but you'd pull it real tight. And then once you tighten it, you would cut the tails down so all that's left, it looks like pretty, you know, pretty seamless. There won't be like a big knot. And you just cut the ends and then just continue on as you're going. The only thing with that is that I've had, not with this yarn, but with other yarn, I've had it come undone whenever I wash it, and that just makes me really nervous. But I found this other way to attach yarn, and this does involve a lighter. So if you don't want to use a lighter, or if you're like a kid, do the knot way, because it probably will be fine. But I'm going to show you this other method where you can actually melt the ends together. And in the middle of this yarn, there's kind of like a plastic core right in the center. And it's what's attached, you know, it's what's holding this fluff on. And if you get them hot and then smush them together, it melts together and it stays very well. So that's what I'm going to do. Like I said, be very careful if you choose to do this. Got to be really, really careful. So the knot method is totally viable if you don't want to do this. Just tie that knot really, really tight and you should probably be fine. But I'm going to go ahead and do it this way. So you want to get it like really hot. You even want to like light the little center together, and then you just mush it together. And just be real careful because it can burn you, obviously. And then once it melts together, it's like a seamless join. Look at that. It's like, it's really on there. And it'll stay, this is very unlikely to come undone when you wash it. So I really like this join because of that. And that is what I'm doing for this blanket. So the other method though, with the tying it, if you want to go that way, here, you know, I'm going to demonstrate that with some scrap yarn I have just to really make sure you know how to do it. So this was the melty method. That's the one I'm using. But here I have some scrap of this yarn right here, and I'm just going to show you the knot method in case you want to go that way. So let's just say these are my 2 yarn tails, and you just would take and you want to leave a little slack or a little excess so you have plenty of room to tie your knot, and you just tie your knot really good and tight. And then once you know it's really on there, you would just take and cut the excess off pretty close, and then kind of trim it down to blend in as best as you can. There's going to be a little bit of a bump because it's a knot, but that also will work. I mean, this yarn holds together pretty well, so this probably will stay good, but it just makes me nervous that it might come undone in the wash. I don't know. I haven't actually experienced that with this yarn, so I don't know. But that is a method too, if you don't want to use the lighter method. So now that I did that, I'm going to continue on my row, and I'm going to go ahead and continue knitting until I have 14 rows all together, and the foundation chain counts as the 15th row. So there's the foundation chain and then 14 rows knitted on top of that for this blue section. And once I get to that part, we will meet back up and I'll show you how to change colors, which it's the same thing as what we just did, except you're strategically placing your color change. And we will do that next. So I'm going to go ahead and finish my 14 rows, and then I'll meet you back here. I finished my 14 rows, and now I'm going to show you how to change color. And we're going to want to do this right on the edge. So let me get over here to my last stitch of my last row. And I'm going to be switching to my Terra Cotta color, and I'm going to do this color for 19 rows. And so I'm going to grab my tail here. And what we're going to do, so we want to join the yarn right here so that it's ready to go for the next stitch, but that doesn't, you know, stick out for this one. So you want this join to be like right here. And if you're going to tie a knot, then it doesn't matter which one you're going to do. Either way, you want to go ahead and knit this one, pinch right where you want the yarn to change colors, and then you're going to undo that last knit stitch. And then, so if you're going to tie a knot, you're going to want to tie a knot that goes right there. So you would just tie the knot right where you get it pinched. Go ahead and trim off your excess yarn, and then re-knit this one, and then start the next row with your new color. But since I'm going to do my lighter trick, what I'm going to do, grab my lighter, grab my scissors, I'm just going to cut the yarn right where I pinched it, grab my yarn, my other yarn, get any fluffies off, and make sure I find that center, that plastic core, and the same with this one. And I'm going to light them and then mush them together very carefully. Okay, and then and then carefully push. And I'm not pushing it all the way because I don't want to burn my fingers. I'm kind of like just using the yarn to push together to kind of buffer my fingers from the hotness. But it does cool down pretty quick. There we go. Nice strong join. And then we shall continue on. So again, if you're tying your knot, you would just go ahead and tie your knot there and cut any excess off, and you'd have a little bump, but that's okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and redo this stitch. Try to make sure the pink doesn't show through. And then we continue on. So then now I'm going to knit the stitch and just continue on with my new color. And that is all there is to it. So I'm going to go ahead and knit with this Terra Cotta color for 19 rows. And I'm doing like a color block type of design where the first block is the smallest, then this one is a little bit bigger, and then the gray block will be the biggest. You can do, you can do stripes, you can do all kinds of stuff with this. I just like that simple color block design. But if you want to do, you could do stripes, you could change colors every couple of rows. I almost did stripes, but then I just decided I liked this color block design a little bit more personally. But there's lots of different options, and that's all you would have to do to change the color is either melt or tie your ends together right there where you want to change the color, and it will strategically be hidden and you won't notice the color change. It won't be real obvious. And of course, if you were doing this with one color, you could just join your ends wherever you want and it wouldn't matter. But just continue on. I'm gonna go ahead and do my 19 rows. This is row 1 of 19, and then I will meet you back here whenever I change to the next color. And anytime I run out of yarn, I'm gonna join a new one on. I have 3 skeins of this Terra Cotta, so I'm going to do that and get my 19 rows done, and then I'll meet you back here. All right, I just finished my 19th row, and I want to show you, I've been just rolling up the blanket on this edge as I go, just to keep things nice and neat. So now I'm going to switch to my gray. I know I want my color change to be right here, and so I'm just going to pinch right there and pull out that last loop. Pinch right there. So if you're doing the knot method, just tie your knot right there. Or if you're doing this other method, then you just go ahead and cut it there. But if you're doing the knot, you don't cut it there. You tie your knot there instead. Mush them together real good. Being real careful not to get my fingers burned. And there we go. Get that little excess fluff off. And if you're doing the knot, just tie your knot there, cut off any excess. So all that's left is just a little knot. And then we go ahead and first finish this stitch here, and then continue on for our next row with our gray, or whatever color you're doing. And it's as easy as that. And now for this gray row, this gray section, I'm going to be doing 23 rows of gray, and that'll be my last section. And then I'll show you how to finish it off once we get this section done. So I'm just going to keep on knitting away and knit until I have my 23 rows of the gray, and then I'll show you how to finish off the edge to finish off our blanket. All right, so we're going to start over here where I just finished knitting this side. And to finish it off, what we're going to do is we're going to first take this first loop and the second loop. We're going to stack the last one on top of the next to the last one. Then I'm going to reach through and I'm going to pull up a loop with my yarn like that. And this loop's going to be a little bit bigger than our loops have been, dog hair, to this point, because it's going to go over to this next loop. You're going to take this and stack it on the next loop, and then you're going to pull up a loop through those two loops again. And then I like to make it just a little bit bigger so it can reach this next loop without like pulling too much, but not like a whole lot bigger, just a little bit. Then you stack this one on top of the next loop, pull through, and bring up another loop. And then you just keep going like that. So you stack this one on top of the next one, grab the yarn through, pull up a loop. Same thing, you're just going, stacking them, pulling up the loop, stacking it on the next one, pulling up a loop. And you just keep going like that all the way down the row. So stack, pull through. I got a bunch of slack over here. And then stack it on the next one and pull it through. And we're just gonna keep going all the way down the row. And then here's our last one. I'm just going to stack it on there and pull up a loop. And then to finish, we're going to grab our scissors, and I'm going to leave a little bit of slack here so I can weave it in. I'm going to cut the yarn, and then you just pull it through that last loop, and you're just going to tighten that up. Like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and just weave this tail end through. I'm going to just weave it around some stitches here, going back down the row. You just want it to be securely in there, but not really be visible. That's probably good. I'll go one more. There we go. And I'm just going to cut the little tail off. And I may have to bury that tail end in a couple more times if it pops back out, but that's okay. I just like to have that little bit of extra there just in case if it comes undone, it's easy to weave back in. So there we go. I got it buried down in there pretty good. And that's it. The only thing left to do is to weave this starting end here in, so you can just do that really easily. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, please remember to leave a like and comment. Let me know how it turned out for you, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos. Thanks for watching.